In this session, I want to share with you some critical thinking on the unfranchised system and requirements. The fact is, there's three reasons the requirements are your best friend. Now, do you understand what the unfranchised system really means and what an unfranchised owner really is? What does it really mean to you? Is it just a word? See, every UFO and leader needs to completely understand this. It's as important as the plan itself. Leaders need to fully understand this and be able to explain it. And from my perspective, it's not just semantical or just a marketing or branding term used for positioning or promotion. It's a concept that the business is based upon and differentiates us in a way that greatly increases the probability of individual success and sustainability. It provides a systemization to build a solid, lasting business, as well as to expand to any residual income level that one desires. You've heard the explanation of the unfranchised system countless times until it loses its meaning. How would things be different without it, though? Have you considered it? Do you appreciate it and know it? And do you take it for granted? I mean, it's very easy to take it for granted. Under the unfranchised system, all UFOs sign an independent unfranchised owner application and agreement, which sets forth how the business operates, every UFO's responsibilities and policies and procedures, the terms and conditions, and the company's obligations and commitments to you, the UFO. This is a binding legal document and agreement between each UFO and the company. Now, every unfranchised owner has a contract with the company, not with each other, but with the company. And we must enforce its tenets as it defines the requirements and responsibilities of the UFO under the Management Performance Compensation Plan on what a UFO must do to get volume credit and residual income on their organization of independent UFOs. And in that, you're protected with your organization. They must correctly teach, enforce, and assist each UFO to follow the policies and procedures, best practices of the unfranchised system in the career manual, which defines the unfranchised business and forms part of the agreement. In the agreement, it defines how one is credited for organizational volume and growth under the MPCP and residual income, providing that they meet the management responsibilities and how their organization, who are each in a contractual relationship with the company, and customer base are protected. At the end of the day, you own that if you're doing the right things. It establishes that the career manual, the unfranchised manual like a franchise manual, forms part of the agreement. And every UFO covenants that the MPCP, as defined in the agreement and the official company literature, is the only compensation plan and the rules that must be followed. So it establishes and systemizes the four components which were previously explained to the unfranchised system. And we put them in practice globally for each UFO locally if they want to be part of the system and grow. So you see, deviations, variations, and violations of the unfranchised system dilute its power, and the individual that does so loses the leverage of its power. So as an independent contractor, each UFO covenants to follow the system, but we can't force them to do it all one way, the way that's been proven to work. The unfranchised system way is the only way that's been proven to work. They can try to do it their own way or special technique or system, and it's difficult to stop. However, that doesn't mean it's right, and they'll not be allowed to be part of the company-wide programs, initiatives, or to be recognized as certified trainers, recognized in or participate in the Global Meeting, Training, and Seminar System, or GMTSS, or be promoted publicly and edified because it has a confusing and negative effect on the other UFOs. So we prohibit the promotion of other systems or the my way variations, just like McDonald's or Starbucks does. If we didn't, there would be no real unfranchised business. And that is the company's undisputable right. So I hope you understand this. Do you? However, when someone as a UFO violates or manipulates the provisions of the MPCP and Independent Unfranchised Owner Application and Agreement, they risk losing their unfranchised business, as well as jeopardizing the soundness and longevity of the plan and put the company and every UFO's residual income at risk. There is where we draw the line, period. I hope you get that. It is the retail-driven basis and qualifications or requirements that make the plan work and establish financial reconciliation and viability in the plan. Everything in these provisions is there for a specific reason, so the vehicle runs smoothly and is financially self-reconciling to every UFO's benefit. Now, failure to meet them or to circumvent them by finding ways to beat the system or falsify information or people's identity or using unretailed volume dumped in auctions or foreign markets is fraud or violations of the contract. It's just that simple. In such cases, the appropriate corrective action or legal action will and must be taken. Make sure that you are aware of this and make sure that your group is aware of this. It's simply about protecting the unfranchised business, the MPCP, and the longevity of residual income for everyone. If someone doesn't appreciate this or agree with it, they are the culprit and have to go. It's like a cancer that must be removed, eradicated, and irradiated. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. We're not going to let the business die for you to be able to run programs that are fraudulent. So the bottom line reason for the unfranchised system and requirements is that it results in profitability and stability for both the field and the company as a partnership. That's a formula for longevity. So how important is longevity relative to the purpose of doing the business for residual income? I mean, the business is all about residual income, right? If the business is about residual income, meaning you work to build it and create an organization once, but once it's done successfully, the income continues to come in week after week, month after month, and year after year. And many have seen this happen and proven over the last 20 to 25 years, whether it be $300 to $1,500 per week or month, as well as six-figure incomes or more per year. What good is it if the company and the plan are not solid, assuring longevity? Because residual income is not really residual if it doesn't last or if you have to start over. Do you agree with that? So that's why I often joke about MLM, that they have a 2 to 3 year plan too, like we have our 2 to 3 year plan. Theirs an MLM is to start over every 2 or 3 years because the deal doesn't last. The same is true for people who do not build correctly following the Market America unfranchised system and rules of the MPCP. They create their own deviant system or try to beat the system. Unfortunately, they go to great lengths to do it their way rather than the unfranchised business way. Sometimes it's even against the very rules that make the program work and solid, thereby undermining it. The ironic thing, or the boomerang effect, is that they cannot stop running their assembly line or fraudulent matrix as a result of using their own flawed, self-induced, and self-serving empowered system. They got to keep doing it. It requires them to keep it going on their own and hiding it or it'll crash. Therefore, they really do not have residual income, which is the real goal or objective of the business. The joke ends up being on them. It's just a matter of time. It boomerangs to come right back and hit them in the head and knock them out. So in the spirit of that, requirements are in place to make the MPCP work for both the company and the UFO. But we're sometimes criticized or questioned about our MPCP requirements and why they're so important to the viability of the MPCP as the economic engine in the unfranchised system. The immediate answer is that this is not another MLM, a game, or a fly-by-night scam. It's a real business and offers huge potential, but it does require work and must be taken seriously just like any traditional business. And without a doubt, it's much easier than any traditional business. Now, we worked hard to make those requirements as easy as possible to do and to maintain. But for those who think that they can use the system to do something that is clearly out of bounds, to manipulate the MPCP and extract money out of the plan fraudulently or in breach of contract, not only do they risk getting caught beating the system and undermining the system, but it would not last. In fact, if these compensation plan manipulation activities, which I call gaming techniques with false UFOs and dumped volume in China or auction sites or foreign markets, if they continued and duplicated in multiple lines of sponsorship, it would prevent the company from being financially sound operationally, because the commission payout would grow out of control, preventing the company from continuing to operate, leading to Market America ceasing to exist as a viable company. Now, do you want that? That's why we have to be so vigilant and strong about this. You know, it's unbelievable that this even goes on when the plan is so great and simple the way it is, and has worked for 25 years for thousands and resulting in a solid company for longevity. Requirements of the MPCP are simple compared to the complexities of what the California complaint described in a previous communication, which is being done by underground distributors, and what is done by these UFOs to pull off these assembly lines and prohibited scam systems. So what's the point of beating the system? It's even more complicated to do what they're doing. I don't even know how they can keep track of it. It's almost impossible to understand it. I mean, you, the field, and the UFOs under the MPCP and unfranchised system actually are the system. Let me repeat that. You are the system. So when you try to beat the system, you're beating yourself. Therefore, unscrupulous things like described in the complaint always eventually boomerangs and comes back around to the UFOs doing it and knocks them out. It is simply beating oneself in the end. Do you get that? So if it doesn't knock the one doing it out of the business, it would eventually knock the company out if we didn't detect it and stop it in time. So those that do this lose either way in the end. If they succeeded, they would have caused the company to fail. It's just a question of how many people have been hurt in the process. Now, everyone knows that Market America takes the high road and does things right and makes sure that we are based on retail and satisfy all regulatory requirements like no other company that I've ever seen. It's all about longevity and profitability. Longevity and profitability. We are often questioned for being so strict and systematic about it, and to the point where it often spawns short-lived competitors claiming that their way is easier and simpler, and then they go out of business. Yeah, that was easier and simpler. Not everyone realizes that the structure, systems, and requirements are there for greater reasons than regulatory compliance. They're actually there because they actually make the business work for each and every UFO. Every UFO will make more money as a result of it. Do you understand how? There have been more than 300 such companies in the graveyard since we began 25 years ago. What does that say to you? And what does that mean or prove? Okay, so don't turn off your receiver now. Now, here's the big point of this communication that I want you to get. There's three big reasons for requirements. The first, the obvious one, is the legal and regulatory reasons. It ensures regulatory compliance and that everything is built on retail and activity rather than passivity. And by the way, you might want to read the preamble of the agreements that really explain this very well now. However, that is actually even less important than the second two reasons. They all work together simultaneously and synergistically. All commissions are based on retail sales, and this is purely sound business. The regulatory concern is about when this is absent or not documented. We've always done that because it's what makes the business and MPCP work anyway. So when it's not adhered to or done to the extent that we mandate, it damages the company's image and reputation, as well as jeopardizing the future of the MPCP working. Actually, how it works is genius. And in my previous communication in the Unfranchised News to all unfranchised owners in the field, I addressed this. So if you've not studied it, you need to go back and look at that video or that communication with the link again. It explains how it all works together to build a business on solid rock foundation rather than on sand. Now, scores of companies, old and new and big and small, have been shut down for not doing it correctly or as it's required. Do you appreciate that, or do you take it for granted? You see, the bad media and press that can result from this alone makes it difficult to expand and duplicate. Restraining orders or regulatory action and investigations have put many companies out of business. The bad media and press alone can cause a company to go into a downward slide. We're the opposite of those things and have never even been questioned. And we're not going to allow it to happen now. We're the epitome of doing it right. However, when UFOs do things that are out of bounds and hide it and then it surfaces, it gets connected to our name and hurts everyone in the business doing it right. Therefore, anyone who's connected to such schemes and putting the company and its programs, as well as all UFOs at risk, need to be dealt with. I mean, if the company does not have programs to detect them and stop them and prevent them, we would be held responsible because the underground culprit is stealing from the company as well as violating the law. So we must take corrective enforcement action, if not legal action, and we will. The fact is, such schemes and practices hurt every single UFO. Now, how do you feel about that? Okay, so the obvious one reason for requirements is the legal and regulatory reasons. Activity and continued accumulation or earning is based on ongoing regenerated retail sales. This is a great thing built into the plan, into the system. It compounds volume and income without constant recruiting. I hope you understand that, because systemically in the plan, the way we build, it increases your income. That's the reason we do it. It is tracked from the bottom up rather than the top down, creating income from sales up two channels. This is much bigger and a much more important reason regarding how this fuels the MPCP, creating a compounding income and volume. So make sure that you understand this, as it fuels the MPCP to earn faster and builds long-term residual income secured by others earning in each leg on retail too. Now, as a result of this, earnings or compensation are not based or not dependent upon recruiting. This is the heart of the matter with regulators. Other programs pay on positions, memberships, or inventory from the top down, and the economics of the compensation plan often incent inventory loading. It is estimated and documented in some cases that as much as 50% of the volume is in inventory, not sold or consumed. This is construed as inventory loading masking, selling the right to sell and being paid on people joining and inventorying without any mechanism assuring that it's retailed to non-participant customers or consumed first. It is usually not driven by regenerated or repeat retail sales or consumed sales volume. Therefore, they drive the business mostly based on recruiting rather than on sales. Now, we can demonstrate or prove that commissions are from retail sales because of Form 1000 online sales metrics and required verification of larger orders. Then retailing continues to drive the business through activity requirements to assure that retailing is happening monthly and quarterly. Okay, so the requirements also mandate management responsibility. Now, always remember that the MPCP is a management performance compensation plan, and the volume is not an automatic entitlement. Everyone is paid for fulfilling management responsibilities of a team, and if they are fulfilled, one gets paid on the basis of retail volume generated, which translates into BV and IBV. One of those responsibilities is to make sure a UFO partner understands and meets the 5 steps of the plan and the retailing and activity requirements under the plan. The senior partner is supposed to help them do this and make sure it gets done to get credit for the volume. So if someone does not meet the retailing requirements to qualify, 200 BV retailed with Form 1000 and at least 2 receipts, and then repeat retail sales of 150 BV per quarter, the volume purges after 90 days. Now, if they do not sell through the product and it's returned, the upstream, more senior partner should buy it back, not to have the volume or commissions reversed, as the company will refund that money on request without question. So the best practice is to make sure that it's retailed or consumed in the first place as you build. Now, the requirements also guard against passive earning or passivity. Passivity or earning on accruing volume is the #1 enemy of the plan or MPCP that could cause regulatory questions and works antagonistically against the mathematics of the plan. In other words, when somebody is not doing anything and somebody else is doing it for them and they're in the accumulation line, they're able to earn without doing anything, especially if they're not even a real person. So it stresses the math and the stability of the plan. So if everyone meets the requirements and does the 5 steps themselves, not done for them, everyone can be paid without commissions creeping at unsustainable rates. It works perfectly. It has been proven actuarially for 25 years. However, when others or bogus UFOs or volume are inserted in the plan and someone else does it for them, then someone is earning passively without contributing or carrying their own weight. Simple logic follows that if 2 or 3 or more people are inserted in the line and do not produce sales, regenerated sales, personally sponsored to who they're managing to qualify on retail sales, then 2 or 3 times the payout is made on their passive insertion without carrying their load or activity producing sales, duplicating and managing the business. So there's nothing added and it's just another payout. I hope that makes sense to you. This causes unearned or forced commission payouts. The commissions are stressed and increased without the necessary volume, sponsoring, or duplication. Please understand that this is based on statistical, actuarial modeling and historical data establishing the ratio of individual production to everyone in a leg getting 100% credit for sales and accruing the volume for a year. If everyone in a line is to get credit for volume placement from sales, this cannot happen without causing the MPCP to fail if they're not meeting the requirements. So requirements guard against misrepresentation. The MPCP has requirements built into the advancement and earning in the plan, or the MPCP, to prevent misrepresentation and being misled or misunderstanding the business. So someone can't possibly say, my upline told me wrong or hid it from me, because they have to take the training. So if and when a sponsor or senior partner UFO doesn't properly train or follow the system, this provision assures that the newer UFO's business is not adversely affected because the sponsor or upstream senior partner did not do their job and failed to explain things adequately. Obviously, if the new UFO doesn't know the administrative procedures in the MPCP, they could lose volume or potential income. This is why there is a required new UFO training and ECCT training to earn in the MPCP. It ensures that every UFO got the correct company training. It also works to prevent outright misrepresentation by a sponsor or upstream senior partner of how the plan or business actually works, also with the product claims or other material facts or requirements as how the unfranchised business works and is administrated. Now, we all know that if somebody doesn't know what to do about the requirements, they're going to miss checks or lose volume. So no one can say that deviant fabricated variations of executing the MPCP differently by UFOs or beating the system was the company's fault because a sponsor or senior partner didn't show them something or showed them something that was totally different. You see, they must take a new unfranchised owner training and an executive coordinator certification training and be tested and certified to continue accruing volume or earning in the plan. This is a great thing built into the plan and into the system. It compounds volume and income without constant recruiting. This is a genius part of the design. You see, it makes the plan work by compounding volume from repeat retail sales. The unfranchised model of a proven system and best practices is to generate a solid foundation of reoccurring or regenerating volume from retail sales and consumption by the end user. That's step one all the time. This is bigger and more important than number one about the regulatory requirements. Activity and continued accumulation or earning are based on ongoing and regenerated retail sales that are built into the requirements and the activity provisions and mandate selling and regenerated volume from an existing or new customer base from the bottom up. So as it builds, that volume is being regenerated and the requirements support that and mandate it. So the volume compounds because nobody can build outside of that. So it just gets stronger and stronger with more and more people earning from the bottom up. And that's why some people have earned consistently for 15, 20 years, six-figure incomes when they haven't done very much. So some of these customers must be non-participants of the plan. This is a much bigger and more important reason for requirements than anything else. This was the intent and purpose and thinking in the original design of the plan. These requirements were put in to drive repeat volume from retailing, causing compounding accumulation of volume up the lines. In addition to all the problems and deficiencies that it solves, the compounding volume, in contrast to other types of plans or opportunities that do not have it, makes a world of difference. The plan was actually created and designed to track retail sales and recurring volume that when accumulated vertically and infinitely weekly or monthly results in a compounding effect of repeat sales volume weekly up the two channels of a business development center to make it pay consistently. You don't really need to worry about it when it's done this way because it works, it's automatic. So it works from the bottom up rather than the top down, redistributing products. And because there's only two legs and nothing is added outside of them, the volume compounds. Are you comprehending this? So it's systemic within the MPCP and design of the program. That's why other binary programs are missing the wiring. They have to sell new spots and exponentially more people at the baseline in order to stay even. So stop and think about this for a moment. This is why that so many of the early pioneers have such large solid incomes for 10 or more years without slipping at all when they slowed down or took time off to live their dreams. So it's the real fuel that makes the MPCP and unfranchised business most powerful, and it's the fuel for stable residual income, not solely based on recruiting, and requiring fewer people and less volume to maintain a residual income level on top of the retail profits that people get all the way through the building process. So that allows for a positive cash flow. The fact that when they start, we make sure that retail is done to cover the expense, and later on, that money's just, cologne money or nice additional income after the business starts to grow. But residual income is based on both new volume and reoccurring volume. Now, reoccurring volume and regenerated volume is the fuel or the power of the vertical system when it gives 100% credit to everyone qualifying without dilution and takes the time limits off to reach thresholds to get paid. These two things combined are so powerful. They're so revolutionary. If there's no reoccurring retail sales volume and the system doesn't measure or mandate it and track it for activity, it requires constant replacement of volume by buying more product or recruiting more people. And without reoccurring sales and regenerated sales, which is one of the differences between other programs attempting to copy us that call themselves binary and our program, binomial MPCP, is the fact that the program is not based, their programs are not based on reoccurring repeat sales. Fundamentally, other such programs are based on recruiting spots, positions, levels, memberships, or required purchases of inventory monthly to have the right to earn on others, rather than like in our MPCP, where it's based on repeat and recurring sales from the bottom up. I hope you're getting this. The result of not having what we have, okay, that's in our program but not in other programs, is inherently walking a thin line regarding legal and regulatory mandates. More importantly, it requires increasingly larger or exponential greater numbers of people recruited at the baseline in order to sustain itself and for the people at the top or in between to continue earning. Do you get that? Do you understand that? So the unfranchised business and MPCP do the opposite of those things, and in fact create a compounding effect of volume acceleration of residual earnings at the top, plus resulting in other UFOs earning on both sides at the same time, which results in stability and security. Do you understand and appreciate this? Seems like a small thing, makes all the difference in the world. So the third thing that requirements do is concerning the economic and financial stability of the MPCP itself. The things we do with requirements and the systems and the requirements allow the MPCP to work mathematically and to be self-reconciling. So, in other words, if the volume's done, the plan works, the payout's stable. Everything covers it, which is much more complicated than any other type of plan because we take the time limits off and we have infinite search and accrual and 100% crediting to everyone. So how important is this to you? The mathematics of the marketing plan is a set of complex formulae and equations based on algorithms and actuarial statistics. It cannot be tampered with or manipulated, and UFOs must follow the system and meet the requirements for all these good things to happen. Otherwise, it does not work, period. Do you get that? So the point of this is that the requirements allow for the things that we love the most about the plan. Accumulation and infinite search and taking the time limits off to earn rather than resetting monthly can only work and exist when the plan is done correctly and the way it was designed. Deviations and manipulative schemes affect the math of the plan and cause it not to balance or be self-reconciling. It works perfectly when done right. So when someone does this type of thing with games or plays games, it causes a formula or equation not to balance or solve itself. This is stealing from the company and undermining every UFO's business and security. Such things cheat everyone. So manipulating the plan would undermine and destroy the economics of the MPCP, resulting in out of control, unearned, fraudulent commissions, resulting in economic loss to the company and cause the company to eventually implode and collapse. Do you want that to happen? There's no reason for it, and we're not going to let it happen. It can cause the plan to crash, and that is why we must stop it at all costs, and we hope that you'll help us do that. These practices are similar to things we uncovered years ago and had taken extreme enforcement action and had to put in additional safeguards and rules to prevent it. Now, does anyone want that after 25 years of stability, ensuring longevity and profitability for the sake of residual income, which is the real purpose of the business for every UFO? Or do you want it threatened by underground secret manipulative schemes to beat the system? Will you take any responsibility in protecting our future by eliminating these things? I mean, any manipulation of the marketing plan resulting in unearned commissions would destroy the company economically and financially. This is the one vulnerability of the plan with all the great things in it, resulting from its genius design to make it more realistic for the average person and providing greater earning potential for leaders who want a six-figure income or higher. These things are there to allow that to happen. So listen to me, you have to remember this. The plan, as great as it is vulnerable to passive earning or gaming, manipulation and fake centers, and fraudulent forced payouts. The math of the plan requires activity, everyone carrying their own weight, and meeting the retail activity and personally sponsoring activity requirements with real people who duplicate the same thing. That all factors into the mathematics of the plan. So I don't know how to state it any clearer. What works, works. What doesn't, doesn't. What we have done for 25 years works, and those people that are trying to destroy it have to be eliminated or change their ways. That's all there is to it. There is no other choice. Okay, so let's talk about intentional and calculated actions to extract commission money fraudulently. I mean, it takes great intentional effort and scheming to pull these practices off in collaboration with others. It comes down to a deviant and subversive mentality to beat the system. It's a your loss is my gain mentality, and that is destructive. It is a perversion to think that it's okay as long as one can get away with it at the expense of the company and all other UFOs or unfranchised owners. What they don't know won't hurt them, is the philosophy, okay? And it's scandalous. You know, it's ironic that the flaw in such thinking is that you are the system. So by beating the system, you eventually are beating yourself. I call it the boomerang effect. As such practices to cheat and manipulate for personal gain at the expense of the company and other UFOs will come back right around to hit those doing it between the eyes. It is always just a matter of time, okay? And what such practices do is hurt every unfranchised owner in the meantime. So we as a company have no choice but to stop it because it's a life and death of the enterprise situation. It is us, the company, or them. Now, those who do this are using the company as a front to conduct what appears to be a total breach of contract and illegal business on their own. Now, which would you prefer be stopped? The individuals doing it or the company? What do you think will happen when in court these practices that are alleged come up and they try to blame it on the company even though it is against our rules, contracts, and we had no knowledge of it? Who do you think will be exposed and have to answer? So what is this specifically all about? You may be wondering, what is he really talking about? Well, those who are involved or benefit upline from it definitely know. There are people who go to great lengths to mask or falsify information with names, aliases, fictitious LLCs, multiple cultural names, credit cards, and bogus shipping addresses, and someone else's bank account to have commissions sent to. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. They take every requirement in the system and find a way around it or to cheat the system by adjusting what they do to just right under the radar so they can get away with it. Their manipulative schemes are elaborate and strategic to pay people off or to recycle money from the money received to keep the scam going. They place large, repetitive orders and ship them to warehouses as customer addresses and then dump the product in foreign countries or auction sites, which is destroying the marketplace for other UFOs, as has been seen with the Amazon.com and eBay situations in the US. If one can systematically beat the system by forcing or manipulating things and then causing commissions to pay when they were not supposed to pay, what will happen? It's just common sense, isn't it? So the conclusion here is that everything in the plan or MPCP and unfranchised system are there for a good reason, and it ensures that it works. Requirements are your best friend because they protect the business, ensure longevity and profitability, and are necessary for longevity, which is what residual income is all about. Violations of the independent unfranchised owner application and agreement and MPCP rules, as well as the unfranchised business or beating the system, cannot be tolerated, as it puts every UFO and the company at risk. Beating or circumventing the requirements is senseless because it causes the MPCP to fail, and it's a boomerang that will come back to knock the person out of the business that's doing it. If they got away with it, it would undermine the MPCP and destroy the company. So either way, they lose. More importantly, the requirements actually drive the business and residual income and were designed to result in compounding volume, which translate into more people earning residual income, and it secures the income of the top leaders. I mean, that's the most important thing. The business plan is incredible and unequal, as well as relatively simple. So why not just do it right? You know, we're all in this together as partners. We need you to understand this and defend the unfranchised system to make it possible to have a better second 25 years than the first. Can I count on you? You see, it all still comes down to the number one product ever since the beginning, and that product is belief. Do you believe? Keep growing, and I believe in you.